Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Lauren Friedman. I'm a Navy veteran, and I serve as a Customer Success Manager for Workforce Development at NextFlex. Before I dive into today's agenda on the eve of Veterans Day, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here today. If I'm inferring correctly, you're here either because you're transitioning out of the military service, you're a veteran looking to learn about new opportunities, or maybe you're a military spouse trying to see what options could be available at your next duty station. On behalf of NextFlex, thank you for joining us, and we appreciate you. I'm here today to guide a conversation about careers in advanced manufacturing, both technical and non-technical. But what do I mean when I say advanced manufacturing? Advanced manufacturing is the use of innovative and emerging technologies to improve products or processes, which in turn help improve competitiveness and add value. I work for a company called NextFlex, a manufacturing innovation institute. There are 16 manufacturing innovation institutes across the country. 9, including NextFlex, are funded by the Department of Defense. We are each charged with working to advance the manufacturing processes and commercial usage for certain technologies. Additionally, we are focused on how to build the workforce of the future. How do we make sure that we can continue innovating and using technology in new and creative ways? Advanced manufacturing is a wide-ranging sector and has room for many skill sets. Military-connected individuals like you have unique experiences and skills that are valued in the industry. Your ability to pick up and move across the country, deploy at a moment's notice, and take on alternate duties in your unit, that equates to resilience, ability to learn, diligence, and hard work. These are skills that are hard to teach, but are very valuable in the workforce. Before we begin our panel discussion, I'd like to play a quick 2-minute video that gives some more insights into this growing sector.
The military is home to some of the most advanced products, equipment, and systems that the United States has to offer. Service members routinely use these things to accomplish complex and dynamic missions all over the globe. These products and systems can range from cutting-edge communications equipment to unmanned aerial vehicles. These products can also extend to next-generation fighter aircrafts, space vehicles, and satellites. But one thing they all have in common is they were made possible by human ingenuity and innovation. The people pushing the next designs and production of advanced products are referred to as the technical workforce. This is a group that greatly concerns the DoD because it's simply not big enough to maintain our nation's competitive edge. In order to accelerate the pace of innovation and to stay ahead of the rest of the world in military technologies, the US needs to see a lot more people joining the technology sector, especially on the hardware side. The software side of the technology sector has done a great job of recruiting people into the field. We need to do the same thing on the hardware side. This can be done by increasing the number of people joining companies like Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and many others. These companies are doing groundbreaking work in science and technology. They're creating products like missiles, planes, UAVs, exoskeletons, and many more. This gives our military its competitive edge. We always need to recruit more people into these companies that make up our domestic defense industrial base. And because of your military background and experience using military products, we are particularly interested in recruiting more people like you. Companies who are designing and manufacturing these products rely on the knowledge that service members and veterans have. Your insight on how these products are used in the field is valuable because it's hard to get anywhere else.
So I'm lucky today to be joined here by Tom Amato, a Navy veteran and Process Equipment Integration Manager at NextFlex, and as well as Courtney Power, Air Force veteran and Deputy Director of Workforce Development. So to start with, Tom, would you mind sharing a little bit of your background in the Navy and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, a little bit about myself. I grew up in the early days of manned space flight. And the first book I ever read cover to cover was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I didn't know at the time I read it, but that would lead to me joining the US Navy and the submarine service. The tagline back when I joined was join the Navy and see the world, except if you're on a submarine. But my experience in Navy, after I got out of the Navy, after serving 9 years, I went into the civilian workforce and worked at Reynolds Metals, Reynolds Aluminum in their packaging division. And we did printing and packaging on different media. That led to me printing holograms. You all remember holograms as the seal on software jewel cases, but I also printed the holograms for the Euro banknotes that go on the banknotes. So I was always interested in something that was cutting edge. I needed to do something that was more and more unique as I made it through my career. So I came from the East Coast out to the West Coast to Silicon Valley, and I started making flexible displays in 2003. I moved, that was a startup company, and then I moved to another startup company that made flexible solar panels. And then I eventually led to NextFlex. So the flexible has been in my career for quite a while. My military service, I think it gives me a unique background for this type of environment that NextFlex is in.
Thank you for sharing that, Tom. I think that's a really interesting, it's really interesting to hear how you transition from one thing to the next, and you were always trying to keep innovating. That's really cool. Thank you. And Courtney, what about you? What was your background?
Hi, Lauren, thanks so much. So first, today is November 10th, so it is the eve of Veterans Day, but I would be remiss if I did not say happy birthday to the United States Marines who may be in attendance today. So my background, kind of interesting, maybe a little bit different. I had no connection really to the military growing up. I grew up in a Navy town, so I grew up in the Hampton Roads area. My dad was a Vietnam veteran, but that was not a part of our family history really at that time. And so I was in high school, and I wanted to do something different and challenging with college. And one of my classmates, who was a couple years ahead of me, who was a good friend, got accepted to this place called the Air Force Academy. And I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. And I hear it's really difficult and challenging, and you serve your country afterwards, which was, I'd always been connected to a sense of service and philanthropy and volunteering and things like that. And so I visited the Air Force Academy, and it was a done deal at that point. I knew that's where I wanted to go. So while I majored in chemistry, so I am a STEM geek at heart, I did not choose to go into chemistry in the Air Force. I was an aircraft maintenance officer because I knew I really wanted to be out there on the front lines with the mission and working with people. So I'm here kind of to represent the non-technical side of advanced manufacturing. That there's a lot of different opportunities for marketing, HR, finance, workforce development, really lots of different skill sets here. But I took a little bit of break after my military service to raise a family. And when I came back to the workforce, I was focused on education. That's a personal passion point of mine, and that built into workforce development around STEM. And so here I am with a company that's doing cutting edge technology work, but really focused on how do we connect people to that.
So first of all, I am glad that you mentioned the Marine Corps. You know, they're part of the Naval Service. So happy birthday to the Marines. But I love that you talked about the field of education and bringing in even non-technical career options into the STEM field, because as you know, that's what I'm doing too. And I feel a lot of pride in being able to return to a STEM career in a different sort of role, but a non-technical role, but I'm still able to return to that. And I did some STEM work when I was in the Navy, and it brings me joy to be able to come back to that now, even though I'm not a technician myself, but to be able to contribute in that way. So I'm excited to hear what you both have to say from the technical and non-technical side of things. Okay, so let's dive into some questions. For those in our audience, please use the Q&A features if you have any questions at all. So I'm going to ask, what skills did you find most transferable from your time in the military? Who would like to go first?
I'll jump in.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Women first.
All right, paper, rock, scissors. So I will say, you know, a lot of what we do in terms of tangible technical skills, like the things that maybe you learned in your upgrade training or your tech school, depending on your career field, may need some translation or additional education around them to be directly transferable to the civilian sector. But what is 100% transferable is kind of what you said in the intro, Lauren, that resilience, the grit, the ability to learn. And I always like to say the ability to fail as well, the ability to ask questions and to be okay with not always being the smartest person in the room or always right. And I think that's really something, especially in the innovation economy and the advanced manufacturing field, where we are literally doing something new every single day. And you have to be willing to ask questions and to learn. And if you can demonstrate an ability to learn, that you've taken on those additional responsibilities in your unit, maybe you worked as the deployment manager and you had to learn how to use a new software system or something, you can quantify that during an interview on a resume to really show that capability.
Great point, Courtney. Tom?
I would second what Courtney just mentioned. I think a very important translatable skill to the type of environment that NextFlex is in is the willingness to learn. Reason that is so important is what we do here at NextFlex and our member organizations that are over 100 organizations involved in what we do. The willingness to learn is important because what we do is not in textbooks yet. It's not in a library. We do it on the fly. We learn as we go. So willingness to learn is very important. And then, as Courtney mentioned, the ability to learn. You know, you could be willing to learn, but resist learning. But the ability to learn and pick things up that you do, either you read about, you do hands-on, through verbal learning, etc. Again, ability to learn things that are not in a textbook, not in a book. You can't go on Google and look up doing some of the things that we do here at NextFlex. They're not libraried yet. So I think that's very important.
That's great, Tom. I know for myself, one of my personal mottos is always be learning. And I think that that is something I picked up from the military, because it's essential, you know, for our careers in the military to always be learning. And something I think that Courtney said that really stuck out to me is also that willingness to fail, like she said, because, you know, a lot of times that failure is almost an essential thing to get through before you can figure out how to do things the right way to succeed. So I just think those are fantastic points. And next up, we have, what advice would you give to someone looking for work in this field?
I would suggest that before you look for work in this field, you kind of do a summary of your skills. And the military gives you more skills than you know you have, because military, even if you are a follower in the military, you learn leadership. You learn what good leadership is from the south end of leadership, being a follower. And that's important in all organizations. And I would suggest make a listing of your soft skills, the things that are easily translatable from the military into civilian life. like I mentioned earlier, the ability to learn. And we all know if you were through the military, your ability to learn is pretty darn high, because you get into the military knowing nothing about what's going on, and you have to pick yourself up literally by the bootstraps and learn a lot. And that's very valuable to just about anybody that wants to employ you in any field.
So I would add to that and say, you know, advanced manufacturing is a really big sector. And so the work that NextFlex is doing specifically in advanced packaging and flexible electronics is just one area. There's advanced manufacturing that's focused on biofabrication or biopharmaceuticals. There's advanced manufacturing that's focused on additive or robotics. And so kind of, again, taking that internal look first, what are you really interested in? What are you passionate in? Because when you get to choose what you want to do instead of, quite frankly, being told what to do, it's a little bit of a transition and you get to own it. And I'm really proud that I've chosen what I want to do, and it encourages me and motivates me to wake up every day that I get to be involved in the STEM education space, and that's a personal passion point of mine. So what is your passion? So looking inside, and I think the phrase I hear most often is translating the we to me. So a lot of times in the military, it's about we, you know, team dynamic, team concept, and overall mission. But what are you looking to do? What motivates and inspires you? What is going to make you want to get up every day? And then define those parameters, define those boundary conditions, and that will help you narrow your job search. Because as I said, advanced manufacturing is huge. There's tons of opportunities out there. So what opportunity is going to speak most to you personally and to give you the most opportunities for growth as well?
Courtney, you dropped some knowledge there. That was some great advice. I feel like that was very impactful, and I need to remember that myself.
And to add what Courtney mentioned, the uniqueness of what we do throughout the NextFlex ecosystem, on any given day, we are doing 3D printing, we are making medical wearables, we are using computer chips thinner than a human hair, we're working on automotive devices, energy storage, thin film batteries, robotics, human monitoring systems, microfluidics, materials. I mean, the list goes on, and that is throughout many of the manufacturing institutes, not just NextFlex.
And for all the non-technical folks who are listening, we also do finance and marketing and event planning and concept design and workforce development and project and program management. So don't get scared by microfluidics. There's lots of other stuff. If you just love Excel and you want to run some budgets, like there's a place for you in advanced manufacturing.
I love that. Thank you, Courtney. And so we just talked about there's a place for you in advanced manufacturing. So what do you most enjoy about your job?
I'll start with that, since I already mentioned that on a given day, we do so many different processes that haven't been done before. And it's groundbreaking work. A lot of our member organizations rely on us to supply them the initial information so that they can take what we've done in an experimental way and make devices to market to the world. And it all starts here, which is pretty amazing.
That is.
So for me, I mean, I think my passion shows through. I love the fact that I'm still serving and that I get to be impactful in the communities that we work in. And then uniquely, NextFlex, while headquartered in San Jose, California, it's a USA Manufacturing Innovation Institute. We have member companies across the country, and we work with education and workforce development partners across the country. And so it's really great. My military experience, I get on a call with someone and I'm like, oh, by the way, this is where I live. And they're like, I live there too. Like, you know, all of a sudden you have this connection. Or I've traveled to the city that the school I'm talking to is in, and it adds something to that relationship. So for me, it's working with people, it's getting to inspire and impact and, and also do something different every day. Every day is different. And so that keeps me coming back because I never know what's going to happen next.
Thank you, Courtney. I love any time when I can see somebody is really passionate about the work they're doing. So that's exciting to see.
And to hear Courtney mention service, after I got out of the service, it was hard for me to understand that I wasn't still serving something or some entity in whatever I do. And here at NextFlex, we have the unique ability to give service back to our warfighters, our pilots and airmen, our sailors, our Marines, our ground personnel. We make devices, we make a smart dog tag to wear in a battlefield. We make monitoring systems that will monitor the health of a pilot built into the headgear of his flight suit, his or her flight suit. We are printing antennas on the wing of aircraft. This hasn't been done before. So in a way, I think I'm still serving because I may not be in the front lines, but I'm helping the frontline folks do what they need to do.
Thanks, Tom. I know that continued service is important for many veterans. And so for those veterans who are looking to continue their service and who are looking to translate their military experience into a civilian resume, do you have any tips for translating their military service, and also any tips just for resumes in general and for interviewing?
So I'll jump in on this one. I've reviewed resumes pretty recently, and my biggest tips is value proposition and quantification. If you can quantify your impact, use actual numbers, but this is not your everyday OPR or performance report. I have a little skepticism if you say you had, were in charge of 5,000 people and you executed $57 million worth of contracts. Depending, it could be true. So quantify your impact and what you did. You can obviously take some credit for what your team did, but again, that transition from me to me, I want to know what you do and what you bring. So I want you to communicate your value to me. And so value proposition for me personally, when I was transitioning, that was the biggest thing that I feel like I had to learn was, what is the value proposition of the company I'm talking to? What are they trying to do? Because at the end of the day, you need to prove to them that you're going to add value. And so maybe that's your creativity, your innovation, the skills that you already have, that ability to learn, but how can you communicate that in writing? Because your resume, in addition to networking, is what gets you an interview. And the interview, it's a two-way street. So it's really your time after you've already done that internal looking to figure out what you value personally in a work environment and how you want to feel motivated and engaged to decide if that employer is a good fit, in addition to communicating to them your value, how you're going to be a good fit for them.
Great advice, Courtney. Tom?
I can't say it better than what Courtney just said. It's you have to find out where your passion is, research a company that has opportunities for you to express and develop your passion further. Do the homework on the company to make sure they are a good fit for you, and then compare your skills and your values that you bring to them so that everybody sees it as a win-win. They win by bringing you on board, and you win by being in an organization where you will thrive.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It looks like we're closing in on the end of our time together. I want to thank Tom and Courtney for sharing their perspectives. Most importantly, I want to say thank you to our audience for joining us today. To learn more about NextFlex, please visit nextflex.us or follow us on LinkedIn. We look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you.